Welcome back to the Crypto's Key Conversation. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a couple different threads here. We're going to be starting with Johnny Deaton's thread here in regards to him responding to community members and their concerns about what's going on with the Ripple and XRP case in regards to the SEC, kind of what's the status and what's the days ahead and weeks ahead look like in regards of what's currently been released so far. We're also going to be taking a look at an update from James K. Filing in regards of Judge Netburn denies Garlinghouse motion to compel production of the Estabrook notes. We're going to get, James K. Filing's take on it, Johnny Deaton's take on it, and then Attorney Jeremy Hogan's take on kind of what that means and kind of how things are going to progress, going forward. Also, we're going to be taking a look at what Johnny Deaton says in regards to Judge Netburn's little diamonds or gems that has been placed in, that's going to be placed in the amicus briefs in regards of her rulings. And there's something else that, us as Ethereum investors need to be concerned about in regards of what was stated within this video with this interview. I forgot if this is from Blockworks, but in this video here, you have our former SEC chairman, Jay Clayton, kind of saying some things that are gonna, bring some cause of concern to you if you are an ETH holder and an ETH investor. And then we're also going to be taking a look at, what Blockworks saying in regards to the NASDAQ executives getting a Bitcoin and crypto spot ETF approved in the U.S. as high priority. Because obviously the, talk of the town today is Australia gets a go ahead to list country's first Bitcoin ETF next week. So obviously, you have Canada has their spot Bitcoin ETF, and now you have Australia. So it's like, okay, when's the U.S. going to get one approved? So that's kind of what we're going to be covering. So as we look at CoinGecko here, we're currently sitting at a $2.01 trillion market cap, currently up 2% for the day. As we come down here, Bitcoin's above 40,000, sitting at 41,317, currently at 1% for the day. Ethereum sitting at 3,096, currently up 2%. As we come down here, XRP sitting at 77 cents, and you can kind of look at our top gainer in a 24-hour period. Step in 18.2%. I've been hearing a lot of talk about that. You have Synthetic Network Token, ApeCoin, EOS, Aave. So there's some pretty good gainers in here. So if we come over here to the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, we're currently sitting at that fear range again, sitting at a 27. So just yesterday we were in that extreme fear at a 24. Now we're currently at 3 points, which shows a little bit more, positivity and optimism within the space, but there's still a lot of fear and uncertainty going on. So, with all that being said, we're just going to quickly jump into kind of what I want to cover today. So this is from Johnny Deaton. He says, I'm getting a lot of DMs on what happens next with the Ripple and XRP case. This Friday, the SEC and Ripple are expected to file a joint proposed scheduling order to Judge Torres. So this is absolutely massive. So we're going to have a better visualization of kind of what's going to be expected in regards of the unraveling or the rollout of the rest of this case going forward on Friday. So it says, it is likely to contain a deadline to submit any Daubert challenges related to expert testimony. It should also include a deadline to submit summary judgment motions and a date to respond to each summary judgment motion. That means the SEC and Ripple are likely to meet and confer this week, unless they already have, to see if they can agree on scheduling. All we know so far is that Ripple was pushing for mid-May. I think the parties will agree to an early June deadline for motions, with responses due by the end of June. If they cannot agree, each side informs the judge of their respective position, and the judge sets the dates. There could be a date reserved for the ability to supplement, the briefs based on what happens with the him and emails and documents. Usually each side files pre-motion letters to the court outlining which motions they seek to file and ask the court for permission. I have no idea whether the practice will continue or whether the parties ask the court to suspend to suspend those local rules and set dates for each motion. Please understand that this is me summarizing, as I have no inside information. So that's kind of him giving his best judgment based on, his knowledge and skills within this, legal space on kind of what's going on. So Friday, we should understand a little bit more of kind of what's going on. Coming over here, I just wanted to quickly touch on this really quick. So Digital Asset Investor had, put this video up here. It says the clip should give the Ethereum founders nightmares. If you had just taken your ETH free pass and kept your mouth shut, you know who you are. The SEC has some face saving to do. We don't go away until there's a level playing field. So Johnny Deaton says, earlier today I spoke with Crypto Wendy on her show, and we discussed the importance of the XRP and Ripple case and the impact an SEC victory could have on altcoins, including Ethereum. If I were an ETH holder, which I am, this would concern me. So let's take a listen into this really quick.
You are going to see similar companies not subject to the same scrutiny from a enforcement point of view. And it's just a matter of jurisdiction, bandwidth, and the like. There's no inherent unfairness in that. It's, who draws the attention, et cetera. And people who are, similarly situated, and one is subject to a regulatory action in some jurisdiction and the other isn't. The one who isn't, may be getting a pass for the moment. Doesn't mean they're going to get a pass over time. In fact, if you see someone who is a similar situated product, subject to an enforcement action, you better expect that may come for you. You are going to.
Okay, I mean, quite honestly, my wife and I invest in Ethereum, and that does concern me to hear that, and just to see the snarky, smile on his face. I was like, what is he talking about? Is he talking about Ethereum? Is he talking about, specific other projects or whatever the case is? But it's like, that does, kind of make me think and kind of make me a little nervous. So coming over here. So James K. Fallon, we're going to click in here real quick. James K. Fallon says, breaking, Judge Netburn denies Garlinghouse motion to compel production of the Esterbrook notes. The court states that Esterbrook notes are no different from the notes the court previously found to be protected by the privilege. He comes down here and says, quote, the SEC's fact gathering from third parties is not an inherently privileged activity, but having reviewed Esterbrook notes, I find that they could reveal to Garlinghouse the SEC's internal thought processes during his meeting with Commissioner Roisman. The privilege applies. So coming over here, Johnny Deaton says, I admit I got this wrong because I predicted Judge Netburn would order the notes, the Esterbrook notes produced. I believe she would find the notes privileged, but pierce the privilege because Brad Garlinghouse has no other way of obtaining the evidence and because it was likely, unlike the SBI meeting, exculpatory. So coming down here, he says, the judge disagreed, finding this meeting no different than the meeting with SBI. She is basically saying since Brad was present at the meeting, he can testify to exactly what was said and any impact it had on him and Ripple. Without reviewing the Esterbrook notes, it's hard to truly evaluate. I mean, absolutely it is. But, hopefully, he is very aware of, maybe I'm sure he sat down with, his legal team and, they've kind of summarize everything he can remember in every aspect. So hopefully they did a great enough job to where he can really, specify and paint a great picture of kind of how everything was laid out in regards of that meeting. Continuing on here, Jeremy Hogan has something to say. He says, I expected the SEC to win the motion and agree with the judge in so far as she reviewed the notes and applied the DPP factors. Also, as I tweeted back in February, I don't care too much. Garlinghouse was on the call and he can testify about what he said, uncontroverted. Coming down here, he says, why fight this uphill battle? One, because Ripple wasn't 100% sure what was in those notes, and so it was a chance worth taking. Two, these are the notes that the SEC found after the fact, and it makes the SEC look sloppy, bad, and you always want to highlight that to the judge. So, I'm curious to see how things are going to unravel in that regard. But I want to thank, Johnny Deaton, Jeremy Hogan, and James K. Fallon for kind of updating us on kind of what's going on and kind of giving their, from their experience and their background, kind of giving us their opinion on kind of what this all means. So I wanted to touch on this. Johnny Deaton says, regardless of anyone's opinion on Judge Netburn or her recent ruling, she gave us two absolute gems that will appear in our amicus brief. So coming over here, he says, the court, my understanding of XRP is that not only does it have a sort of currency value, but it also has a utility, and that utility distinguishes it, I think, from Bitcoin and Ether. So coming over here to the next one, it says, presumably under this theory, then, every individual in the world who is selling XRP would be committing a Section 5 violation based on what you just said. So we're talking about, all XRP is considered a security. So I'm curious to see, where this thing goes. There's so many moving parts. It seems like, for, someone that's not in the legal realm that doesn't really understand kind of what's going on and kind of just going off of face value, off of what, Johnny Deaton and James K. Fallon and Jeremy Hogan and other people in the community kind of talk about, that comes from that legal background. So a lot of moving parts. I'm just kind of excited to see, starting from Friday, how things are going to be looking like in a timeline and kind of what's next in regards of this Ripple versus SC case. So coming over here, Says Blockworks, NASDAQ executive says, getting a Bitcoin and crypto spot ETF approved in the U.S. is a high priority for us. Absolutely. I mean, we've been waiting years for this. And now you have other countries, already stepping up to the plate and, already taking hits. So it says, Australia gets a go-ahead to list country's first Bitcoin ETF next week. The trading could begin on the CBOE Australia as early as April 27th, following a 7-day notice period. So, I mean, this is extremely positive for Bitcoin. Obviously, when it comes to, we don't have a spot, we have futures, but I mean, that's not necessarily what this space needs in regards of, the flow of capital and almost like, more faith and trust on top of that within, allowing a lot more, bigger players and, whatever corporations, investing institutions and so on to invest into, Bitcoin, a spot Bitcoin ETF, and just allowing, like I said, that capital to really come in and allow this space to further grow and scale and more adoption to happen. So obviously you have Canada having theirs, Australia's getting theirs going. It's like, okay, when's the US going to really, step up to the plate and start swinging that bat? But that's kind of the update. That's kind of what's going on right now. We're going to continue to follow what's going on with the Ripple versus SC case, continue to follow, some of the news that's going on within the entire space in general. But with all that being said, stay strong out there, be safe.